It's about Pete Hegseth, and the knives are out for him. They've never not been out for him. They remain out for him. Who NPR, that bastion of exclusive Trump White House gets, is reporting may be on his way out. They're reporting that Trump is looking for a replacement, which Trump is denying. Now, why would NPR have a scoop like that about Trump, not matched by Fox News or any other outlet? Ask yourself that. Here's how we got here. Someone at the Pentagon has been leaking to the press about very serious matters, even top secret matters, like the report that appeared on NBC News in mid-March revealing that the White House had directed the Pentagon to draw up options to increase American troop presence in Panama to advance the president's goal of reclaiming the Panama Canal. What was that doing on NBC News? The report was very specific. It stated, quote, U.S. Southern Command is developing potential plans for partnering more closely with Panamanian security forces to the less likely option of U.S. troops seizing the Panama Canal by force, end quote, citing, quote, 2 U.S. officials familiar with the planning. The Department of Defense began investigating those leaks and made it known in the press that they would be using polygraphs to get to the bottom of who was behind them. Now, as with any time a threat like that makes its way into the public eye via the news, one has to wonder, are they really going to polygraph everyone, or are they just setting some sort of a trap? For example, first person to complain about the polygraphs is likely someone you want to polygraph or at least look into. Now, in the course of that investigation, Defense Secretary Hegseth wound up firing 3 of his top aides. On Friday, it happened. They were escorted out of the building. Those fired include some who had been close to Secretary Hegseth before he became secretary, like senior advisor Dan Caldwell, who had worked with Pete at Concerned Veterans for America for some 9 years. Also fired Deputy Chief of Staff Darren Selnick and Colin Carroll, Chief of Staff to the Pentagon's Deputy Secretary. A 4th staffer, a press aide named John Elliott, also parted ways with the Pentagon, supposedly because he didn't want to be second in command of the comms shop. But there's some real sour grapes with this guy. He ran to Politico, first of all, a left-wing rag, to say the Pentagon is in disarray under Secretary Hegseth and predicted that Hegseth will be fired by President Trump. Almost immediately after, Don Trump Jr. took to X and made clear that this guy, Mr. Elliott, is not America first, though he claims to be, and is officially exiled from the movement. He's not happy with this guy, Elliott. The 3 alleged leakers, however, remain a bit of a mystery. Why would Pete's top aides, including his friend Dan Caldwell, allegedly leak to NBC News about alleged war plans involving the Panama Canal? And there were other leaks too, like that Elon Musk went over to the Pentagon. There were a few of them. It wasn't just the one. But this one would be top secret. All we know for sure is that Dan Caldwell appears to be part of MAGA's more non-interventionalist wing, which is fine. That's probably how Trump won the election in large part. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being non-interventionalist. I think the Republican Party in general has had it with the forever wars and the more bellicose nature of some of the parties. Certainly the neocons have become otherized and almost enemies to that strain of the party. So there's nothing wrong with Dan Caldwell feeling that way. And he does appear to feel that way. But the question is, was that view abhorrent to the people who fired him? Mr. Caldwell seems to think so. He went on Tucker's podcast last night with his first remarks since he got the axe. And in that exchange, Caldwell suggests that he was forced out of the Pentagon, not because he leaked anything to any member of the press, which he denies doing, but because he is anti-war with Iran due to his experiences in Iraq.
It started really pushing me to where I'm at now in foreign policy. Like, we need to do something differently. And it kind of radicalized me in a certain way on this. And really, there's an argument that you need to be, when you're talking about foreign policy, you kind of need to be cold and detached. Like some people say that realists need to be cold and detached. I don't necessarily buy that. But, you know, when I hear about launching a new military operation or somebody talk about something, my first thought is, what's it going to be like for the guys? What's it going to be like for the boys that are going to be in the front?
Now, the suggestion implies that Secretary Hegseth, or those who suggested to Hegseth that Caldwell be fired, feel differently than Caldwell does there. Though I can tell you myself from many conversations with Pete over the past 6 months, he is far from a neocon. We've talked all about it. He was much more pro-war, as much of the Republican Party was back during the Bush years. He signed up. He left Princeton to go fight. I mean, he was in that mindset, which most of us were post 9/11. That's why he volunteered and fought at Gitmo and in Iraq and in Afghanistan. But he's had a serious change of heart from and thanks to those experiences, much like Caldwell. Pete is not a neocon. Honestly, President Trump is the one making the most noise about bombing Iran, and Pete's job is to do what President Trump tells him. Remember this from February with Trump?
You cannot allow Iran, or just about anybody else, by the way, but especially Iran, because they are very militant. I mean, they're very, very militant. You can't allow them to have a nuclear weapon. But there's two ways of stopping them, with bombs or with a written piece of paper. I think Iran would love to make a deal, and I would love to make a deal with them without bombing them.
Okay, I mean, that's good. But Trump hasn't taken military action against Iran off the table. It's, of course, what Israel wants. They want the green light for them to do it, which, of course, will draw all of us into a military conflict with them and their supporters as well. This is one of the topics of conversation that Caldwell and Tucker got into today. Well, I listened to it today, but it hit last night. Well, we can confirm, based on our own reporting, that Mr. Caldwell did not have his phone searched, nor was he polygraphed before he was escorted out of the Pentagon. He told Tucker that as well. But we do have to point out that those are not the only ways one can be discovered as a leaker. One of the ways they used to track confidential information at my old law firm, for example, was to make everybody log in before they could print a document. Do you have that at your company, maybe? If you work with sensitive information, they make you do that. That was one of the controversies over at the Supreme Court when they leaked the Dobbs decision. Remember, they were like, don't they have this system already where nothing can be printed without somebody logging in their ID number first? Anyway, nothing got printed at my law firm without a record of who did it. That's just one possible way of finding a leaker, not to mention one's desktop computer records or email records or possible intra-office comms between loose-lipped staffers. So, with all due respect to Mr. Caldwell, it doesn't really answer the question definitively to say they didn't take his phone and they didn't give him a polygraph before they fired him. We don't know what they did at the Pentagon that led them to believe Dan Caldwell and those two others needed to go. Now we have more questions, like, will Caldwell and these other two turn over their phones voluntarily to the Pentagon? Will they volunteer them? Will the other two, come forward and offer their own defenses? Will these three voluntarily return any laptops or other electronics given to them by the Pentagon? Will they allow the Pentagon to search their personal laptops? I mean, all of this can be obtained rather easily by a warrant, which may well yet be heading Mr. Caldwell's way, as well as the way of his two now fired colleagues. Because while Caldwell told Tucker he would likely already be under arrest if he'd been caught leaking, the truth is that oftentimes, in fact, I think a lot of the times, they fire the suspected leakers. They continue their investigations because they don't want them having ongoing access to confidential information. So they fire them, they continue the investigations. And then when and if they have enough to charge the person, then comes the indictment, the handcuffs, and the arrest, all of which could, I don't know, but could potentially be in these guys' future. I mean, now is the time for these three to be cautious. I was kind of shocked to see the one on Tucker's podcast. But he's going on offense, saying I was fired for my Iran views, not because I leaked. We don't know whether that's true. We just don't know right now. I mean, I can tell you this. When three people are accused of participating in the same allegedly illegal scheme, one and only one has the opportunity to cut a deal. One and only one has the opportunity to cut a deal. And the first one into the Pentagon to say, choose me, is going to get a great one. Anyone after that could be looking at prison time potentially, if in fact the Pentagon has evidence on leaking that it certainly seems to feel it does. All right, getting back to the main story though, since those terminations, it's been an all-out assault on Pete Hegseth in the press. So when you read these hit pieces on Pete, you have to keep that in mind. This isn't coming out of nowhere. He did nothing to these people. He was running the Pentagon. Then somebody leaked top secret information to NBC News. Then they opened up an investigation at the Pentagon to figure out who did it. And the next thing we knew, these guys got fired. And now suddenly the field is flooded with hit pieces on Hegseth. The White House has made clear they think it's these guys behind
this.
This
is what happens when the entire Pentagon is working against you and working against the monumental change that you are trying to implement. And unfortunately, there have been people at that building who don't like the change the secretary is trying to bring. So they are leaking and they are lying to the mainstream media. We've seen this game played before. The secretary is doing a tremendous job and the president stands strongly behind him.
I mentioned that guy, Elliott. He wrote a direct hit piece under his own name in Politico, arguing, quote, from leaks of sensitive operational plans to mass firings, still pissed about Doge, the dysfunction is now a major distraction for the president. So what is he talking about? He's talking about these leaks, which they investigated and just fired 3 people for. Elliott was not part of that firing. He was something else. And mass firings, Doge. That's the dysfunction. What's the dysfunction? People leaked, and unlike in previous administrations, Hegseth's trying to do something about it. And yeah, Doge hit the Pentagon, same as it hit the other administrative branches. What's the dysfunction, Mr. Elliott? And went on to try to play to Trump's vanity, saying the president deserves better from his senior leadership, and he predicted Pete will be fired. Elsewhere, we have just been seeing the drip, drip, drip of the chaos narrative, including news that Pete allegedly had a second signal chat going about those Houthi attack plans. This one, not with all the, administration officials, but with people who are close to him, his personal advisors, meaning his brother, who works with him at the Pentagon now, his attorney, who also works with him at the Pentagon, he's military, and his wife, who doesn't work with him at the Pentagon, and would be a controversial person with whom to share, his Houthi attack plans, which, again, the Pentagon is saying, were not classified. And that could be because that would have to be because he had declassified them prior to sharing them with anybody. Mr. Trump asked about all of this yesterday, the second signal chat and the narrative around Pete, made very clear he stands by Hegseth.
Confident Hegseth? You remain confident in Hegseth?
Oh, totally.
President Trump.
Why do you even ask a question like that? We have recruitments that's at an all-time high. The spirit in the armed forces is fantastic. Are you bringing up Signal again? I thought they gave that up 2 weeks ago.
There was a new report this weekend that he used it in a separate chat that included some family members.
It's all just the same old stuff from the media. That's an old one. Try finding something new.
Which is good, because Pete is not a neocon. He's not a war hawk. He's not a chaos agent. He's a war fighter who has helped already the Army, Navy, and Air Force get on track for record recruiting years, who is eliminating woke from our armed forces, who is restoring lethality to our military by making sure standards are uniformly high, and much, much more. Tariff wars, stubborn inflation. No wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs. In volatile markets like the one we have now, don't sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. Take control and safeguard your savings. This is why so many people are turning to Birch Gold Group. They've helped tens of thousands converting an existing IRA or 401k into one in physical gold. Is it time for you to hedge against the economic instability with gold? Just text MK to 989898 to find out. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation info kit. Text MK to the numbers 989898. A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Countless 5-star reviews. They've helped so many protect their savings. Check it out. Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.